I have not ever DJed with Dead Mouse. I did open for the late great Avicii at one point.
Wow.
But
Well, welcome back, everybody, all my friends. This is going to be a very fun module, lesson, whatever you want to call this. So I met somebody recently, and he's a pretty cool, I was going to call you a cool potato, but that sounds more like an insult than it is like a compliment. Say hi, Rich.
how's it going, man? I've never been called a cool potato, but here I am. And I guess all my fans in Idaho, you're probably appreciating that greatly right now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, Rich and I met on a call just I think last week or maybe a week or two weeks ago, and I liked his background. I thought we had some good energy, and as I looked more into his background, I was like, oh, we could get some value out of this man here. So thank you for joining us, Rich. Let me introduce you here. You are, well, your full name, by the way, is Rich Bracken. You are the founder of Unstoppable Solutions and a highly paid keynote speaker. Caught my eye initially, especially since I work in that space, getting speakers on stages and stuff like that. You specialize in emotional intelligence, EQ, and executive presence for Fortune 100 companies. We're used to hearing that Fortune 500 kind of label a lot, but Fortune 100 is pretty exclusive. You are an expert at helping leaders move from inspiration to lasting action. And fun facts about you, you were a touring DJ and you've been on 5 national TV shows. So before we dive into anything related to business and helping the people in this community, hold on, just back up a second. Tell me about this touring DJ life that you had. Did you wear a helmet? Do you know Dead Mouse? I'm seeing him in 2 days live. Tell me about this.
Oh, wow. So I have not ever DJed with Dead Mouse. I did open for the late great Avicii at one point. But I started DJing in high school because I was the student council treasurer, and we were paying these old 40-year-old DJs a lot of money, and nobody was showing up to the dances. So I said, look, and for those of you that aren't aware of what a CD is, it's that thing that you use on like a trendy coaster that you get at Urban Outfitters or something now. But my friends and I had all these CDs, and I said, look, we'll take $150 versus $600 what we're paying these old guys, and we'll market it, we'll do it, and our friends are going to want to come hear us. And so we exploded on the scene, and then it just became like a fun side thing, a fun hobby, if you will, that just kept growing and growing and growing. It was never a career, but it wound up putting me in a lot of positions. I was a national touring DJ for a Glow Run 5K and opening for Avicii and Kelly Rowland, and got to play at Winter Music Conference down in Miami and play all over the country, and got to play in England a couple times. And so it was just something that was a lot of fun. And it is part of what I do now with my emotional intelligence presentations, my keynotes, is that I actually DJ on stage and play music while I'm teaching the lessons of emotional intelligence. So it's the best of both worlds, and I get to go to bed before 5 a.m. So it's a really good compromise now on my sleep schedule, but also my passion for DJing and music.
That's amazing. I love that. I will tell you, I got my little MIDI keyboard back here for 5 minutes in whatever this was. I don't know, 7 years ago. I was DJ Sass Vanille on SoundCloud. Okay, so
Sass Vanille.
Yeah, you know what's funny? So
where did you come up with that one?
Well, I went to IKEA and I was in line to get food, as one does at IKEA. And I look at this yogurt, or it was either yogurt or ice cream. I think it was yogurt. And it had this label, and they always have like the Swedish label. And it was like SAS, Sass with the little accent thing. And then vanille, like VANILJ. And I just thought it was a cool looking phrase. And it just means, what was it? It was vanilla sauce. That's what it means, vanilla sauce.
I was going to say, I mean, if anything is sassy, it's yogurt. It can't be ice cream. So it couldn't have been that. You know, if that was the first thing that I thought of, like, sassy vanilla. Like, that's a really interesting combination and kind of an oxymoron. So that's an interesting thing. 5 minutes of sass vanilla.
Yeah. So I told people, hey, when you see a big ice cream cone head DJ, you know, opening at Coachella or whatever, you're in the exclusive group and you know it's me.
You're going to know who's behind the mask. Yep.
Yeah, no NDAs were signed, but anyways.
Well, the 5 minutes is hard to get a lot of NDAs signed, so good on you though.
Yeah, I do. Hey, I do have a SoundCloud. I'll link it below. No, I won't. Okay, But getting into your actual expertise, not my
Yep.
failed DJ career. Um, excuse me. I have a few topics here.
Yeah.
We'll ram through as much as we can here in a short period of time. But one of the first things I want to really dive into, Rich, is confidence and presence. So we often talk about, presence as something you have, but some people will say it's something you do. What is the physical or mental action of presence? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I look at it like this. If you're presenting somewhere, you may have all the knowledge in the entire world. You may be the subject matter expert on the topic that you're talking about, or you may be the subject matter expert on the thing you're selling. But if
Yeah.
you don't portray confidence, if you don't portray that presence, that gravitas that makes people feel confident and trust you and talking with you, it doesn't matter. I've talked with, and I know you probably have done the same thing, where we've talked with people that are very knowledgeable, but are too busy talking about the thing that they're trying to sell or talking about the thing they're trying to market, that they forget to engage, they forget to feel confident, or even their body language and their tonality doesn't have the confidence that it should. So you could, again, have all the knowledge, be the person that your company goes to share all this information. But if you're either not engaging in question asking and figuring out what the client needs or what the prospect needs, or you're not conveying it with the right body language, the right tonality, the right delivery, that is going to be everything. Nobody's going to buy from somebody who doesn't have confidence. So that in and of itself is a differentiator in the sales process, because it also creates likability. I actually just did a post about likability in sales, and that's everything. If you don't like someone, you're not going to spend money with them. I've never given money to somebody that I'm like, I hate them, but they know what they're talking about. Like, I'm not going to do that. I would rather go to somebody that I like that maybe isn't as knowledgeable and give them my business because I trust them and I like them.
Right. Okay, so tell me about this then, because going off of that idea of confidence, everyone always talks about fake it till you make it, and that's how you get there. And, I think it's a number of things. I don't think it's faking necessarily. You have to build up skill sets. And often I find, and I want to know your thoughts on this, it's developing the skill sets and then also, how do I say this? It's like that term, success is when preparedness and opportunity meet, right? So you have to have the preparedness, and you have to be a person that follows through on your word daily. And I think even that internal following through and knowing you can trust yourself, that starts to build confidence. So maybe, can you touch on this fake it till you make it kind of idea? And is that even valid?
Sure. I think fake it till you make it to me gives too much room for error and too much room for low barrier of entry of knowledge. Do I think you have to be perfect in everything? No. But I think you have to be at a level that you are, and I'm sure something will pop up here shortly that is clever, but confident to communicate. So it's not necessarily that you have to nail everything 100%. Again, like when I'm coaching people on public speaking, I don't ever tell them to memorize their presentation, because they're spending too much time internally focusing on every single word, every single thing that they want to say, and they're not thinking about the connection that they have. So I think there's a balance there where, again, I go back to the confidence factor. I'd much rather have somebody that is 80% knowledgeable or even 75% knowledgeable. That's a great question asker. That's a great discoverer in that process. You may not have all the knowledge, you may not have all the answers, and that's okay. But if you are conveying confidence, if you are asking the right questions, if you're listening to the person and their feedback, that is huge in the process. With public speakers, same thing. If you're up on stage delivering content and maybe you're not 100% the expert and you're not delivering absolute mic drop moments, but you're doing it in a level that is confident enough, and you're getting there and you're delivering in a way that portrays this knowledge, then I think that's okay. But the fake it till you make it, I think that's a little bit of a misnomer, thinking like, oh, I can just have very basic minimal knowledge and be a subject matter expert or a keynote speaker on a topic. That's going to be harder to hold that consistency over time. So you have to be really careful about where your level of fakedness comes from, or where it reaches.
Yeah. Well, I'd love actually for you to expand on that in your space, or it kind of applies to any space, but we're in this day and age of the influencers that really know nothing, but maybe just had a viral video, or maybe they're a good marketer, but they have no like legitimate, what's the word I'm looking for? They have no meat behind the bones. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in
Right.
your space, and I work in that space as well, getting people booked on stages, keynotes. There's a lot of people, and actually the way we met because I'm the filter for the company that I work with. Because everyone kind of has to go through me, because I actually meet a lot of people who, they want to get on all these stages, but I'm like, you are not stage ready, my friend, or you have nothing really to offer
Right.
of value yet. So how do you distinguish between the ones that have maybe a lot of confidence, but really it's all fluff behind it, versus the
hmm
people who really truly have, like, they have the meat, but maybe not even the confidence, and how to find that line?
I think there's one element that bridges the two of them, and I will say that that is care. So it's clarity and confidence, and also the ability to get on stage and deliver really good content. But that middle ground is caring. I will say that, I'll think about my space specifically within the emotional intelligence space. There are hundreds of emotional intelligence speakers, and a lot of them
Mm,
are really good. But you could tell very distinctly the ones that really, frankly, give a damn about their audience and are there to help the audience. And at the end of
right.
the day, I don't care what you're talking about, but if you're not there to serve the audience, if you're not there to make people better, if it's all about you, you've already lost the battle. It does not matter how good or how knowledgeable or how confident you are. If you're up there for you, you've missed it, period. Yeah, I do not care who you are. I don't care what celebrity you are, what status you carry. If it's about you, don't even bother. You're wasting everybody's time, because at the end of the day, if you're not serving that audience, if you're not helping people be better when they leave you, if you're not giving them the knowledge and the information that they need, if you're giving canned presentations because it's comfortable and it's easy to collect the check that way, you are missing the point. And so I think that that element of, yes, there's confidence, yes, there's the content, but you've got to care about what you're talking about. You've got to care about the people that you're talking with. And that is where I think that bridge between, we talked about fake it till you make it. I think that's where that bridge is between, okay, I'm getting my confidence built. I'm learning more about the content. I'm becoming more of a subject matter expert. But if you truly care, people will resonate with that. People will feel that quickly in an audience.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of not making it about you, by the way, quick sponsor for me today. We're actually, no, I'm kidding. Sponsored segment promoting my own
Ego
stuff.
limited. When it's all about you and only you. Ego
Use
limited.
code Josh10 or Rich20.
To send me a kickback check, because it's not about you. It's not about your discount.
And that's so funny. No, I love the expression, people don't know, or people don't care what you know until they know you care. And
Right.
I think that's, whether it's in sales, it's again, these principles. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is, I can talk to you who is in
Mhm.
this, keynote speaker, emotional intelligence space, and they might think, well, what does that have to do with me in my sales job?
Mhm.
Everything. Success principles are
Everything.
universal, right? Communication skills, networking, building. I mean, EQ is literally, I don't know a thing that doesn't get touched by your emotional intelligence. Um,
Right.
and so, uh, excuse me, something I'd love to know your thoughts on as well is, as you build yourself into a resilient, emotionally intelligent person, I find a
Mhm.
lot of high performers often conflate self-worth and net worth. So how do you, whether you want to talk about things that you've seen in your own life or maybe in some of your clients or people
Mhm.
you work with, um, how does developing your emotional intelligence help separate that self-worth, net worth kind of dichotomy?
Yeah, and I think a couple of quick data points to touch on too with emotional intelligence and the critical nature of it within any industry, really. 90% of top performers have a high EQ. They're able to, they're able to identify their emotions, they're able to control them. They're really good at active listening and social awareness, and they're also really great at relationship management. So though, and the other statistic is around 80 or 85% of people think that they're emotionally intelligent, but only about 15 to 20% actually are. So there's a
Well,
big gap of misunderstanding. The nice thing is that you can actually enhance your emotional intelligence, which, unlike your IQ, your IQ gets set at a certain age and you can't improve it. It is what it is. Your
right.
emotional intelligence can be raised every single day. The other statistic is that nearly 60% of your performance on a daily basis has to do with your emotional intelligence. So again, going back to the content knowledge piece and the relatability, likability piece, that is all based in your emotional intelligence. So if you think about people that are high performers in an organization, they may be really smart. They may be subject matter experts. They may be the resident person that people go to. But if they can't carry on a conversation, if they don't have empathy, if they're not asking questions, if they're not actively listening to people, if they lose their temper quickly, they are not performing at the optimal level. So with any industry, no matter what it is, sales, law, construction, nothing is not, touch your point, every industry and every position is touched by emotional intelligence, which is why I love talking about it, because I'll talk with every industry under the sun about it because everybody needs it. But when it comes down to your self-worth versus your net worth, number one, you have to believe in yourself. The primary focus of emotional intelligence and how we can raise it is that self-belief component. I will say that that's been my weak spot over the years for a long time, is that self-worth, that self-belief. And so you can have somebody who has a high net worth, but if they don't have the self-belief to back it up, they're going to be more volatile when they hear no. They're not as resilient when it happens. I speak in the legal industry all the time, in the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry has the worst emotional intelligence, and legal has the second worst. There are also people that are very in charge of our livelihood. So that is absolutely terrifying. But it
What about
also
politics?
determines the fact. I think it's by default just left out of the discussion because we all know why.
Right.
But when it comes to it, I mean, you think about some place that's very high net worth, and maybe not as high self worth, because a lot of them are dealing with imposter syndrome. A lot of them don't have the resilience because they're taught to be perfect. So when you're perfect, or when you think you're perfect, or you're learning and educating and practicing to the level of perfection that you need to do it your job, do it effectively, you're not going to be resilient. Those that fail in those things are, they have a hard time bouncing back. So you've got to have your self-worth, because your net worth will come and go. And it will, it'll be year to year. You could be in sales. You could have a great year in sales, and the next year you hit a wall where the industry shifts or the economy shifts and you're not doing as well. Your self-worth will keep you on track to performing at a high level. But if you're basing everything on the net worth or the dollars that you're bringing into your door and your companies, that's going to fluctuate, and that's going to throw you into a mess of panic when it doesn't go the way you need it to. So focus on your self-worth. The net worth will take care of itself.
I was going to ask you something else, and I still will, but you actually just brought up a point that I think this is so relevant, because what you just said was your net worth will come and go, right? But the self-worth is what stays. I think of the exact same thing about joy and happiness, where people that, and I want to know your thoughts on this, because people that chase happiness, hey, what's your goal in life? To be happy. Well, in my opinion, my definition, I want to know if you agree with this. Happiness is an emotion that, kind of like your net worth, comes and goes. It fluctuates. Well, if somebody dies today, are you going to be happy today? So is your entire life's purpose now destroyed because one day you're not happy? Whereas having purpose, direction, true joy, like if you think about like joy as an internal spring versus a happiness as an external piece of clothing, for example. I love your thoughts on this, because I find those that always say they chase happiness are often the most miserable. Those that have purpose and direction, regardless of the storms of life, are often the most stable emotionally.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think of it in a way that happiness is like a sprint emotion and joy is a marathon emotion. So it's the longer term. It's the more steady thing. It's the foundation of what you're doing. If you're living in joy, to your point, good and bad things will happen, and they will come and go. And you're going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have a good hour and a bad hour. It depends on the day, it depends on the season of what's going on. But if you have joy as the foundation, the sorrows and the frustrations and the anger doesn't hit as hard and doesn't stick around as long, because you can come back to your joy, you can come back to your purpose, you can come back to the why of your life and get back on track. It's not to say that just because you have joy, you're never going to be frustrated, you're never going to have a bad day, you're never going to be angry, you're never going to be sad. You're going to have those things. But, joy and emotional intelligence hand in hand. When you have those things as a foundation, you're actually going to bounce back quicker. You're going to bounce back stronger. You're going to be more resilient. And those fluctuations are not going to be as peak and valley as they normally would.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Nothing else to say. That's exactly how I feel about it.
No notes.
So perfect. Cool. So going back to what you were saying before then about emotional intelligence, you can learn, you can grow, as opposed to IQ. EQ can be taught. Because I know I've experienced this with others, I've experienced it with myself, these limiting beliefs that, well, my family is just this way. Well, I'm an introvert, or I'm an extrovert, or people put the labels on, which then inherently puts a limitation on themselves. And I know Simon Sinek had this really awesome talk where he was explaining introversion versus extroversion. And, introverts wake up every day, he said, with 10 coins in their pouch, and every interaction with somebody kind of depletes a coin, and then they need to recharge alone. Whereas extroverts wake up with no coins, and every interaction, fills their bucket, so to speak. But his point in saying this was that your social skills have nothing to do with introversion and extroversion. So even if you are an introvert, stop using your bad social skills as an excuse because you're an introvert. That's just a lack of trying. And so I think of the same thing here, where it's like, you can become more emotionally intelligent. Don't use labels to get in the way. So would love your thoughts on that. People putting limiting beliefs on themselves to learn and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, as somebody who is a recovering limiting belief holder, that is something that handicapped me for a very long time in my life. I was the person that didn't think I was worth the opportunity, didn't think I was worth the money, didn't think I was worth the title, didn't think I was worth the success. And I created this false narrative about myself that limited my potential, that limited my opportunities. Because there were plenty of times that I had doors open that I'm like, not my door to walk through, even though it was swung wide open for me. And so we create these limiting beliefs because it's safe. Because, I can say that, well, I'm just this person and it's not meant for me. So therefore, I don't run the risk of being disappointed. I'm just not stepping up to the plate to take the chance in the first place. So I don't run the risk of embarrassment. I don't run the risk of judgment. I don't run the risk of failure. So a lot of times people will put those on themselves as a crutch. Like, it's easy to say, I'm just going to duck out of this because I'm an introvert. And also at the same time, like, I talk with people all the time that want to be public speakers, they'll say the same thing. I'm shy. I'm introverted. I'm kind of a nerd. I'm kind of quirky. I'm like, great. You can still get on a stage and talk to people who are also quirky, introverted, data nerds. Like, it doesn't matter.
Have you heard
like,
of
you
Steve
don't have to
Jobs?
get up there. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Or
Have
is
you
it
seen
Mark
those guys
Zuckerberg?
dance? Oh yeah. Watch those guys dance on a stage and you'll figure out real quickly you're amongst good company. But what it comes down to is that you have to understand that your title that you assign to yourself is put on you by you. If you adopt somebody else's perception of you, somebody may say, well, you're not as good as the other person. And so if you adopt that, you're creating that narrative that is false because that is somebody else's opinion. And I will say that I lived through that for a long time where people, I was bullied as a kid and I wore those hats of shame all the time. And it wasn't until one day that I said, look, who told me this? Who told me that I wasn't good enough? Who established that? And some people will say like, well, I'm just not getting yeses on sales deals, or I'm not getting, deals as a speaker. Well, okay, you just haven't found the right audience yet. It doesn't mean that you're not worth it. It doesn't mean that you're a failure in that sense. You can't label yourself in that way because you're shutting the door to every other opportunity that's meant to come down the line. And so any title that you give yourself, and I challenge anybody that's listening to this, like, write down the first 5 things that you would describe yourself as, and also write down the first 5 things that people have described you as. And do they match? And do you want them to match? Because at the same time, what is your favorite version of yourself? Deep down inside, we all want to be happy and joyful. We want to be successful. We want to feel fulfilled. And a lot of times we just put these labels on ourselves to prevent that disappointment from ever happening. But if you just say, look, maybe I'm introverted. Maybe it's just that I need to replenish in a certain way. And that's okay. I'm the same way. I'm an ambivert, so I will get up on stage in front of 10,000 people and give a keynote or DJ a show. But I am like, the minute I get off stage and grab a bottle of water, I've got Sade in my ears calming me down. And I am sitting in my hotel room and I am not talking on the plane. Like, I have to refuel. So that's who I am as a person. And I've understood that. And I look at that as my strength because at least I understand myself and I know how to navigate that. Imagine if you're living this false life from this false narrative and you don't understand how to take better care of yourself because of that, or how to seize those opportunities. But if you walk into the truth of who you are and who your favorite person or favorite version of yourself is, you've now opened up the user's manual to your success. That's a better route to live your life by.
I love these phrases that you just keep dropping. The user manual to your own success. Nice. I'm going to have to, when I watch this back to edit and, post it, I'm going to have to write all these expressions down. I love it.
A lot of hashtags coming out of this one.
A lot of hashtags, yeah. Well, hey, listen, I know we're already at 24 minutes, but I want to ask you one more thing
Mhm.
that's kind of out
Sure.
of off base from what we were just talking about, but I had it written down here because I know it's relevant for you. Yeah, I think this is so useful, especially for younger entrepreneurs getting started. Elevator pitches.
Hmm.
Most are atrocious. Most you definitely don't want to hear in an elevator. How do you guide someone, or how do you help someone really narrow in how to explain what they do in a way that is interesting, succinct, and not robotic or sounds like ChatGPT made it with long EM dashes?
Yeah, well, first of all, we need to get rid of the term elevator pitch. So I challenge your community to come up with a different term for it because nobody, number one, nobody talks in an elevator. I've been in hundreds and hundreds of elevators and not many conversations happen. So there's that.
Just silent farts.
Second of all, right, exactly. Silent farts are just awkward stares at the ceiling, right, or looking down on the floor. So I think number one, what if you're at a networking event or you're, not in an elevator, let's just say it that way. If you're conveying who you are, you're making an introduction. Think about what you do, who you do it for, what problem you solve. Those are the things you need to be talking about. So I coach people all the time. And, right now I'm working with a group of tax, accounting, and audit individuals, and we're working on their elevator pitch. And so if somebody, I teach them, like, if somebody asks you what you do at a networking event, don't say, well, I'm an accountant. Okay. I literally just walked into a conversational wall. Say, well, how, organizations will hire outside accounting firms to handle the things, or individuals will hire, accountants or auditors or whatever. That's the problem that I solve. I help organizations make sure that they're financially sound through accounting practice. That's a different way. You want to make it understandable to anyone, because there are times too between attorneys and accountants and auditors that people either don't want to hear that because it's not the funnest, most fun topic to hear about, or they'll convey it in a way that is so complex that people just kind of go glassy eyed. They're like, all right, well, how about you? What do you do? And like, so they're immediately shifting off of that person. But if you can
Right.
make it memorable, somewhat engaging, and also transferable, because what you want to do is convey it in a way that I can remember it. Because most times people will remember one or two things about you from what you're saying. They'll remember like the aura that you bring and the energy that you bring and your likability factor. But when you tell me what you do, it's got to be short, and I've got to have two transferable facts so that later on, when I'm talking with somebody else or they're talking about me, they can say, oh yeah, I know that somebody's maybe looking for a speaker for a conference. Oh, I met this guy Rich the other day at a conference that I know, or at a networking thing that I know he speaks about emotional intelligence for companies. You ought to reach out to him, because I've made that transferable and memorable. They can also bring that up and refer me out. But if you're going on going, well, I do this thing and I went to this college. Nobody gives a damn where you went to college. They really don't. They can figure that out later on. What problem do you solve? Who do you do it for? And, if you want to throw in something extra about the experience of working with you, great. I
Yeah.
make it as easy as possible for companies to be as financially sound as they can be. Great.
Yeah. It
I just
sounds
made
like
accountant sexy. There we go. There's a mic drop moment right there.
that's the name of this lesson. Make accountant sexy. Hashtag
Make
wait,
accountant sexy.
massa. Make accountant sexy again.
Massa. I like that. I like that. Maybe we can get this sponsored by like KPMG, right?
I was gonna say, well, we'll do a merch store, you and me. We'll go 50-50.
Right.
I love
Perfect. I love it. The
Cool.
accountant revenue will be huge.
And it sounds like ultimately it's like you want this pitch to be understood by a elementary schooler and a C-suite executive. Something that is just clear, crystal, to the point, and like you said, exciting,
Yeah,
leaves a memorable impact. I love that.
oh yeah, and if it's not in a business context, then if it's a personal context, you can always start it with, well, how there are conferences and there are speakers that get up at these conferences and deliver motivational speeches. That's what I do. So you're putting it in that layman's terms of, oh,
Yeah.
and so how companies hire this, or how attorneys will help companies do these things. That's what I do. And
Mm.
so you can relate it to the story of what happens when people engage you.
Yeah, I love that. And I've run into this myself so many times where maybe you and I bump into each other at a conference or something, and we're having good rapport, we're talking, and it's like it's all good high energy. And then you're like, Josh, anyways, what do you do? And then it's like, I help. I do, and then that's it. Like all my rapport is lost. Now I give off a weird, unconfident energy, and it's kind of. I've done this. I've experienced this where I killed the vibe because I realized I don't know how to explain. I know what I do. I'm very good at what I do, but I never thought to say it to somebody, or maybe I'm just starting a new venture and I realize I've never actually said it out loud yet. So
right. Well,
Definitely.
yours would be perfect. You know how people are trying to, they want to be speakers and they want to get on stages. I actually help them find the stages and companies to work with.
Yeah. Well, and what you're saying too, it's making me realize when you and I met, I'm talking to you directly. You know why we're sitting down. So I have a different way of telling you versus telling my friend, and having the differentiation. Well, you know how, high performing kind of people get on stages and, well, I help book them. Whereas when we're on a call together, well, I don't need to tell you that. You know that. You live that life.
Right.
So I'll be like, hey, Rich, we help experts, founders, executives, and entrepreneurs actually land more targeted speaking and stages while developing their brand to make sure that they look the part so they actually get the part. Like that would be what I would say to you.
100% understanding and comprehension of that. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Or that, that neighbor may not understand what personal branding really means, but I totally get it. So I think there's almost two versions to it, which is why you can't really tell two versions in an elevator anyway. But there's got to be the storytelling layman's term, and then there's also the network content industry relevant one where you can really dive into the details of it.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Rich. I know we could probably keep going for another 30, 40 minutes, but for the sake of the audience, I know y'all have short attention spans and you want to go on TikTok, and I get it. So we'll have to end this here. Dude, I'd love to have you back sometime. I think there's just so much value to extract and pull. I think we have a good rapport. Maybe it's one-sided, but I think we do. But
no,
but
it's
that
mutual.
Being said,
it's good.
Nice. Please tell people, where can they find you, look at your stuff, support you? What are the easiest links or places to go?
Yeah, head to richbracken.com. All of my social media links are there. All the handles are there. Content, videos, blog, podcast, everything is at richbracken.com.
Awesome. I'll leave it below. Guys, go click, go follow. Don't spam him. And if you message him, it's Mr. Bracken to you guys. So
yes.
Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you, man.
Ciao.